Hey YouTube, this is Kevin Boland of Boland's Small Engine, and today I thought I would show you guys how to properly adjust the valves on a Briggs & Stratton OHV Intech engine. This one happens to be a 14.5 horsepower industrial commercial. You can find these engines pretty much on any piece of lawnmower equipment. They've put them on all kinds. But anyway, the reason that I want to show this video is people are constantly burning up starters, okay, because they don't know how to adjust the valves. And there's only a few videos on YouTube on how to properly adjust valves on a Briggs & Stratton OHV engine. So I'm hoping that maybe this video can help a few of my potential YouTube viewers. I'm going to start off by telling you the first thing that I want you to do is to remove your blower housing. Now that's not necessary, but it makes it a little simpler for this demonstration that I'm doing. Alright, so I've basically removed the blower housing, and of course remove the valve cover, which you will have to do that, and I'm going to turn the engine clockwise. So as you'll see, when I'm doing this, I'm looking for both these rocker arms to move at exactly the same time. So I'm going to start turning it, as you can see, clockwise. And you can see that I've got the exhaust going down, and now my intake. So see that? If you look, you'll see they're both moving at exactly the same time, and that's what you want. From here, as you can see, you'll see that the magnets on the flywheel line up with this coil, or armature if you will. What I like to do is, if you have the blower housing on, make a mark on the fan or even to the screen, okay? But in this case I just made a mark on the fan. From here, you want to take that mark that you make one full turn, line it back up with the coil or armature, and go 1.5 inches past this armature pole. The reason I'm saying that is you want to make sure that you're over your compression release. It's actually that simple, guys. Now from here, you want to revisit your rocker arms. You're going to need a set of feeler gauges. You can buy these at any automotive dealer, a parts dealer I should say. They're not very expensive. Feeler gauges, I think I gave for this set maybe $6. And a torque wrench, which isn't really a necessity, but it's definitely handy if you want to do the job properly. Just don't over torque if you don't have one. Snug is a good rule of thumb here. Alright. On your Intech, a 31 cubic inch Intech engine, your valves typically are between 3 and 5 and 5 and 7. So in other words, your intake, which of course is the aluminum push rod here, it's always a good indication as to which one is your intake and as to which one is your exhaust. Your intake will always be aluminum and your exhaust will always be metal. On, I should say, one of these Intech single cylinders here. There are other engines out there that use just metal push rods, but we'll talk about that at a later date. Let's just address this Briggs for the time being here. So like I was saying, this is your intake and this is your exhaust. Your intake is the one that sets between 3 and 5. So you need to get a set of feeler gauges. I don't know if you'll be able to see the 3000s on it, but as you can see hopefully here in the camera, that's 3000s, and you want to slide it into it. If it's real tight, that's an issue. If it's real loose, that's an issue. Okay, you need it just snug. So what we're going to have to do is undo this torque screw. This Torx screw is a T20 Torx. I've already loosened them, so I'm not going to have to go through that process. It's pretty simple. You just take a 10mm wrench, put it on this nut right here, and you loosen your Torx. Okay, same concept for up here, but I've already loosened it. So what we're going to do, we're going to take the 3/1000 feeler gauge and we're going to slide it in here. And as you can see, that's kind of loose, so we want to tighten him up a little. I'm doing this with one hand, guys, so just bear with me. And once you get it like that, right there, so where it's just snug, you can potentially tighten the nut, okay? Or I'm sorry, hold this nut here with a 10mm and tighten your Torx. On your exhaust, you want to start with a 5/1000 feeler gauge, which, as you can see, hopefully if I can get this out of the light, this is a 5/1000 feeler gauge. It's the exact same concept. You do not have to move the flywheel for this. You're perfectly right where you need to be here. Set your 5/1000 feeler gauge in, and as you can see, this is pretty tight. I'm going to loosen it. I'm just doing it by hand. Sliding the feeler gauge in, and this, now I've got it just a little too loose, so tighten him up. And as I say, you just want them snug. Of course, I'm doing this with one hand, guys. This is a whole lot easier when you got both hands. You can hold your feeler gauge, snug it up by hand, and it'll work just fine. You can tighten it up. But as I say, and that's still a little tight. Okay, that's not too bad. That's pretty snug. Now from here, of course, you would leave the feeler gauge in and you would tighten up your Torx screw. Make sure that you don't turn your jam nut, only the Torx screw. If you do this, I can guarantee you, as long as you keep this within 3/1000 and this within 5, your engines will run just fine. Of course, there are a torque specs for your Torx screws, and they're 60. Okay, they're 60 inch-pounds. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to torque them and hold the camera at the same time. So you need a Torx wrench, set it on 60, and tighten your Torx screws. Of course, after you've used your feeler gauges, okay, to get your valve clearance. The nice thing about this torque sequence is it also applies, or I should say this torque spec, it also applies to the valve cover. So it's 60 on your Torx screws and it's 60 on the valve cover. I really hope this video helps everyone here on YouTube. If there's any questions, I'll get back to you. I hope this really helps, because I've seen so many starters get burned up because of people's adamance of just in desperation not wanting to fool with the job. And it just really sucks when they come in and they wonder what's wrong with their lawnmower, and it's just a simple matter of adjusting the valves. A valve cover gasket isn't that expensive, guys. It's only $3 or $4. It's a whole lot cheaper than buying a starter. So I hope you guys will keep this in mind. And like I said, this isn't really a hard job to tackle. I would recommend that you tackle it. Okay, save a starter. Until next time.